Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Retirement Compass, the show dedicated to helping you successfully navigate to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio is Tim Kulhanek. He is the co-founder and a financial advisor at Stonebridge Wealth Systems. The title of today's show is The Gravity of Taxes. We've got a jam-packed show today that's going to impact you no matter where you are in your own retirement journey, and we're so glad that you're joining us and hope that you will find it to be very valuable and helpful. Tim, my friend, always a joy to be with you. How are you this week?
I'm dialed in. I'm ready.
You are ready to go.
Let's talk about taxes.
Let's do it, right? Well, and here's the thing is a lot of folks think taxes, oh, what a boring subject, or, that's not a fun thing to think about, but it's a necessary piece of your retirement plan because at the end of the day, it's not about how much you have, it's about how much you get to keep. And we are committed to helping you have your hard-earned money work for you, and we don't want you to pay any more to the IRS than you are legally required to pay. And so, Tim, I think it's first important to talk about the type of tax planning that you and the team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems engage in, because there's a lot of financial advisors out there that won't even have this kind of tax conversation with their clients, right?
That's true. And it's not a knock on them. For a lot of them, it's just kind of a firm policy.
They're not allowed to.
Right. If it's a big box retail type shop or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I like to divide kind of the different levels or tiers of financial service providers. Mm-hmm. If you think like a triangle, the base, almost like they do with the food and stuff, is at the base you've got what I call product providers. And that's going to be it could be for your DIY. It's really your 401k as a product provider, because they're not going to give you any advice, right? They're going to say, hey, here's a menu. Which mutual fund do you want to buy?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This one sounds good. Let's put some money in this. And you have no idea what you're buying.
Yep.
And that's not a put down to anyone out there. Some folks do, but the vast majority, the reality is most people don't. So product providers, you go there, you set up an account for you. If you need any help, there's a hotline that you can call, and maybe it's 24/7, maybe it's 8 to 8, whatever it might be. And you may have to get in a queue or push one, and they'll call you back when it's your spot, and they'll save your spot in line. It's almost like if you compare it to air travel, that's like sitting coach, I guess I call it economy, not economy plus. Right. You're in the back of the plane, you're on Spirit Airlines, and you're in the middle seat, and there's a couple sumos next to you.
Oh, that happened to me recently. It was not fun.
You didn't get an upgrade?
Well, I got upgraded, and I still had two sumos on either side of me. But
let me tell you,
this is the other thing. If you want to talk about inflation or deflation, sorry, we're digressing here. But even what used to be like Delta Comfort, the seats are now tighter than they used to be. Anyway, go ahead.
But they got the name, right?
Right, exactly.
The illusion, if you will. And so, like sometimes in a 401k, there's an illusion that, hey, there's a plan, administrator, plan sponsor would be your employer, and then they've got a area representative that might come out. The reality is they specifically call them educators, not advisors, because they're not legally going to give you advice because they don't want to be on the hook for giving bad advice.
Right.
And they certainly aren't going to give you tax advice or anything, or tax planning strategies. So the next tier up would be what we call asset managers. And that's where you're going to go in. It could be a big box retail firm, one of the wirehouses, whoever it is. It could be an independent advisor. A lot of independent advisors in the space anymore. And you say, hey, I'd like some help with planning for retirement. And typically that conversation is going to be, well, let me see your account statements. Right. We got to see what you're in. And then, well, it looks like you're in some stuff that's done pretty good. You've done a great job saving, but if you would have been with me, you would have done better. We could have gotten 9 instead of 8%. So we roll this over, but that's kind of where the conversation ends. And then you, being the consumer, you say, all right, what account should I be putting money into? I got a 401k. Should I do Roth or traditional 401k? Should I be doing the catch-up that I'm eligible for? And they might give you an answer. They might say, well, why don't you talk to your CPA about that? Well, I don't have a CPA. I use TurboTax. Oh, well, maybe you could reach out to them or, do some research online. Tax is really, that's not my expertise, they might say.
Right. That's not what we do here. That's not our wheelhouse. Yeah.
That type of conversation is had. And it's the same thing if you ask, well, do I need a will or a trust, or those more estate planning type? Well, we'll talk to an attorney. And those are critical pieces of an overall plan. We think of a financial advisory group of holistic planning, which I'm going to get to here in a second, is really a team approach. And so that's why I'd say to be fair, like 90+% of financial advisors are going to fall into that asset manager category, where they're going to set up your accounts, they're going to do your rollovers for you, they're going to make sure that you've got the ACH link between your bank account and your investment account. But when it comes to those more nuanced questions, it might not be their place. You might not get a detailed financial plan. It might not be a written financial plan. It doesn't necessarily say when you're going to draw Social Security, which account you're going to take money out of first,
right.
how much to withhold for taxes, whether or not you need to withhold tax from your Social Security payments, if there's any risk of you having to pay back some of your Social Security because you're still working. You're probably not going to get that in the asset manager category, which is why at the top, the kind of more elite tiers, the way I'd put it, because you get more in-depth services, is holistic planning, where you're not only going to get the investment management piece, but there's going to be a focus on things like income planning. Where's my income going to come from? I can't tell you, Kristen, how many times folks have come into my office and they say, we've got all this stuff, we just don't know what it does.
Right.
When do I use this?
Yep.
I thought retirement was going to be, I just put in my notice and my employer says, okay, well, your last day is January 30th, 2025. I sail off into the sunset, but it turns out that I got to make all these decisions, and it's weight on my shoulders, and I don't know what to do.
Right.
I don't know how do I actually get the money out of the 401k. Do I just call them up and tell them to send me a check? And so in holistic planning, we look at income, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy, so we can tie it all together and be more comprehensive, so that way folks can really, like, at the end of the day, what it means for them. Like, if we really want to get down to, okay, that sounds great, but what does that mean? At the end of the day, it means that they're focused on the things that matter, that are important.
Right.
Taking kids to ball games. Let's go to Kansas City. Let's watch the Royals. Take grandkids to Worlds of Fun, Oceans of Fun, maybe down to Branson. I know a lot of folks that love traveling throughout the area. Go see, the Ark Encounter in Kentucky, whatever it is, a bus trip. It doesn't matter. There's no box you have to fit in, but you can focus on those things rather than laying awake at night thinking, did I do the right thing?
Right. And it's how all those pieces fit together, and we talk a lot about on this show. This is why it's so important to engage in that comprehensive, holistic financial planning process, because how you make a decision in one area of your financial life can and will affect all the others. You can't afford to look at any one of these pieces in isolation from each other. And this is especially true when it comes to taxes, because there can be some significant consequences based on decisions you make. Off the top of my head, I even just thinking of someone coming in, like you said, Tim, who's saying, okay, I have all these pieces, I have all these accounts. That in of themselves is not the plan. Those are the pieces that are a part of the plan. But even something like having a withdrawal strategy, knowing which accounts to withdraw from first, how much to take out, so that you're making sure you're doing so in the most tax efficient manner and you're not inadvertently triggering more tax consequences for yourself.
You're exactly right. So we used to do this kind of fun game at our workshops. It was called the $2 group or the $3 group. And I'd randomly go around and I'd hand each attendee either $2 or $3. And then I'd say, okay,
real money? Or Monopoly money? Okay.
Real
all right.
deal here.
Sign me up for a live event. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
They didn't know that Uncle Sam was about to come out and he was going to collect.
Right.
But I would $2, $3. I'd say, raise your hand if you're in a $2 group. Okay. Raise your hand if you're in a $3 group. And I'd feign surprise when all the guys had $3 and all the ladies had $2. And I'd be like, I'm in trouble, We had a lot of fun. But then there was a bag of coins too, because what I didn't tell them is their tax rate. And their tax rate was, I think I came up with 28% is what I was using.
Okay.
And the difference between the two was where it represented, those dollars represented interest. The $2 group earned their interest, let's say, in a Roth IRA. The $3 group, the guys in that case, earn their interest in a CD. And so, back then interest rates were 0.5%. So I'd always say, you must have had a couple $1 million in that CD to get those $2, right? And what ended up happening is I'd show them that because of the way all these different types of incomes work together in retirement, Social Security, RMDs, capital gains, long-term, short-term interest, dividends, it's not as intuitive as you'd think. At the end of the day, the guys ended up having to pay in $1.55 in taxes. And so they'd have coins, like I say, pay up, guys. Right. Quarters are the big ones, because it's kind of fun to make fun of the guys after the fact. Especially when they don't feel like they can defend themselves. And alas, the ladies won. And the question is, why did the ladies win? Because they understood a very key principle of retirement. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep that counts, okay? The guys had a much better rate of return, 50% better than the ladies, but they ended up with less. Yes. And again, it comes down to having a strategic plan. So what I'd say to our viewers here as we go to break is, I was looking up a quote before the show, and it's from Yogi Berra, which has great quotes, by the way. One of his was, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. It doesn't make any sense, but okay, Yogi Berra. So he once said, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up someplace else. And I think that's great because one of the things we're going to do for you folks when you come into our office is we're going to put together what's called a tax map, okay? Now this is going to allow you to see your taxes in a way you've never seen them before. Rather than just looking at a 1040 and like, you know, the last gal that came in, she's like, why is there like 200 pages here? I don't understand why I need 200 pages. Why are there so many pages to my tax return? We're going to simplify it for you. It's going to be on one page. You're going to be able to see it on the screen. You're going to see exactly where you're at. So you'll bring in last year's return and we'll see, okay, here's where you're at today. Now let's figure out where you want to go. And what do we need to do to make sure that we can help you on your journey towards ideally the 0% tax bracket? We know that, you know, some of the main economists out there, I think of David Walker, former Comptroller General of the Currency of the United States of America, the chief auditor of the government, says that tax rates will have to double in order for our government, the U.S. government, to be able to maintain and fulfill all the promises they've made to, especially you seniors out there, for things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and interest on the debt without having a default. So we need to move towards lower taxes in the future, which is a tax plan. The tax map is going to be the first step. But before that, call that number on the bottom of the screen, and as part of that analysis, the written income plan, you will indeed get that complimentary tax map as well.
Wonderful. Tim, thank you so much. I'm excited to continue this jam-packed conversation with you. But if you're sitting at home and you're going, you know what, I know that I need to have a tax plan in place, this is your opportunity. It's going to be part of this complimentary written financial plan that Tim and the team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems are offering to you completely free. So pick up the phone and call 866-256-7778 to get yours scheduled. Or if you'd like to connect online, we've got you covered. Simply pull out your smartphone, and if you open up that camera app, you can point, click, and scan the QR code that you see there down on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Stonebridge Wealth Systems will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary written financial plan that way as well. We'll be more talking about the gravity of taxes right after this.
As Americans, we strive for better. From a better house, to a better career, to a better life for our children and grandchildren. Better has become the American way. But when it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? More income, a flexible lifestyle, better solutions? Yet a better retirement begins with a better financial plan. To get your complimentary written financial plan, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better. Our team is very unique, so we all have different gifts. You know, when you put it all together, it fits well.
Jeremy is definitely our most seasoned and fastest growing advisor we have. He's discerning, so he understands the way we want to do things at Stonebridge, to focus on the client and solving their problems, and that's really what he's passionate about.
I know Tim spends a lot of time making sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed for his clients. And he's not just satisfied knowing the 30,000-foot view, he wants to get down in the weeds and know exactly how it works.
The things that you buy, the stocks, the bonds, the mutual funds, that really isn't that important to the client. What's important to the client is, what does this mean for me? And at the end of the day, what it means is they can sit back and listen to the music. You know that you've got a team, not just one person, but an entire team behind you that's taking care of those things, so you can focus on what's important.
Welcome back to the Retirement Compass. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with Tim Kulhanek, co-founder and financial advisor at Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And today we are talking about the gravity of taxes, the importance of having a strategic tax plan in place for your retirement. And Tim, I want to go back. You were talking about the tax map prior to the break that folks are going to be able to receive when they come in and meet with you for this complimentary written financial plan.
Yep.
Walk me through, what are some of the key takeaways that someone's going to be able to receive from getting that tax map from you?
So I think one of the main things is understanding the impact of taxes and the difference between paying now at a rate you know versus postponing the tax payment to some point in the future that could be stratospherically higher. Because there's this myth out there when we talk about some tax planning strategies that people kind of fall for, and that is that, hey, you know, I don't want to pay taxes now, because if I pay the tax bill now, that I'm going to miss out on all the gains of what I otherwise would have received had I continued to defer those taxes to some point in the future. But it's not actually true, because if you had $100,000 and 10 years later it's doubled to $200,000 and you're at a 30% tax bracket now and 30% tax bracket then, in both scenarios you end up with $140,000 whether you pay it now or later. You take $200,000, you pay the 30%, and it's $60,000 in tax that you pay, you net $140,000. Well, if you paid it today, you had $100,000, you pay $30,000, you've got $70,000, and you put it in a Roth, it doubles. There's tax-free now because it's in a Roth. Well, 70,000 times 2 is 140,000,
and it's all tax-free at that point.
It's all tax-free at that point. So the only variable that matters is the taxes. And if we were serious about this and we ask ourselves a question, according to a lot of studies, and so the most prominent one that I've looked at is the Penn-Wharton budget model.
Say the Penn-Wharton budget model. Okay.
Yeah, so the Penn-Wharton budget model is the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School. It's an elite school for business, probably the most elite in the country in my opinion.
Yep.
And so they've got a budget model they look at, and they update it quarterly, and it's kind of grim, if you would be really frank, is they say that the U.S. government has a 20-year window to take corrective action. We've actually talked about this on past shows, where if they don't get serious about either cutting expenses, cutting spending, or raising income, then after 20 years, there's no amount of or combination of tax raises or spending cuts that would stave off basically a default, or just almost nationalizing or monetizing the debt, which just means massive inflation. And so the reason why it's important to have a tax map is because we can do the math and say, okay, if you pay now, on a conversion, for example, and by the way, folks, what a conversion is, if you're saying, hey, so for example, let me just set the stage. There's $40 trillion in the United States in qualified accounts. That'd be IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, TSPs, cash balance plans, traditional pension plans. And estimates are that 90% of that money is on the pre-tax side, right? So you've got taxable, tax-deferred, tax-free. Most of that money is in the middle bucket, tax-deferred. And so what that means is the taxes are going to be due, and the government knows where every single penny is at, because every year the custodian, the bank that holds the money, sends out what's called Form 5498. So folks, you get this form probably in May or June, and you're I gotta redo my taxes. No, you don't. It's not a tax filing form. It's more of a notification. It's an informational piece that says, hey, just so you know, we're furnishing this information to the IRS so they know where all your money's at, okay? So the government knows where they're gonna get the money from. Penn-Wharton knows where the government's gonna have to get the money from. So the tax map, we can say, well, what if we paid taxes today? So let's say you had $500,000 in that bucket, that tax-deferred bucket. What if we start repositioning that to the tax-free bucket now versus postponing that tax payment till later, with the expectation that rates will go up? Well, if you're in the 22% bracket,
right,
it's going to tell us exactly how much that's going to cost. And then we can go in and just say, okay, let's just say the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act rates expire and they go back to where they were before.
Right, because they are set to sunset as of now at the end of 2025.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
What if they just go back to where they were? How much would it cost? Well, 22 is going to go to 25, 24 to 28. And it's oh, I can pay now and pay $4,000 less or $5,000 less in these conversions than if I postpone. It's simple math. It's not that complex, but people just haven't seen it. They just don't know.
Right.
So we offer this tax map complimentary because it's an opportunity for you to actually visualize it in a way that's going to allow you to make a decision rather than have that paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, for sure. And what I love about it, Tim, too, is that it shows you the monetary amount, which I think sometimes when we talk percentages, it doesn't hit as hard as when we look at, oh my gosh, I could either pay this much to the IRS and there's a monetary amount attached to that, or sometimes easily triple, double, quadruple, whatever.
Exactly.
That just really illustrates it so powerfully, the benefit of engaging in some of these strategies like a Roth conversion.
Yeah, and it makes it easy to make a decision because then it's just a matter of, do I pay it now or do I postpone it? Here's my rule of thumb for things like Roth conversions, because our goal, David Walker, I said tax rates will have to double. So even if you would be in the, let's say, 25% bracket, and you're oh, well, I'm in the 22% bracket now, I'm going to be in that in the future, which most of our clients are in the 22 to 24% bracket. Most Americans are. Most retirees are who have saved for retirement, I should say.
Right.
They think, oh, well, 25 is not bad. You know, it's just going to go from 22 to 25. Well, what if David Walker's prediction, again, former chief auditor of the U.S. government, what if he's right? And by 2030, 2035, approaching 2040, kind of the point of no return, according to Penn Wharton, those rates double, and now 25 is 50.
Right.
That doesn't sound like a very good bargain to me.
No, not at all.
No, so if I can get enough converted to where I'm going to be in the 12% and it goes to 15 and worst case scenario 30, or better yet, I get to the 0% tax bracket, that's where I want to be. So the rule of thumb is you want to get all the heavy lifting done before tax rates go up for good. But here's the key, not do it at such a rapid rate that it's going to give you heartburn along the way, and you're not going to be able to stick to the plan.
Right, for sure. So there's a fine balance there. And
Absolutely.
I know that Roth conversions are a huge strategy that, you know, you've just done such a great job of outlining for folks. I know there's some other strategies that we'll get to throughout the show today, but if someone's watching and they're going, you know what, I don't know, maybe a Roth conversion's right for me, but when's the right time? How much do I convert? When do I do it? What would you say to someone who's wrestling with all those same questions right now?
Well, I'd say that you're just like everybody else, and you're just like me. I wanted the same thing. What bucket should I be allocating to? So actually, if we can, I think we've got a graphic on tax buckets that I think will help wrap up this segment. There it is,
Great.
Perfect. So just keep in mind that in a rising tax rate environment, there's a mathematically ideal balance to have in each of those first two buckets. And once we determine that for you, which is different depending if you're single or married filing jointly, but that first bucket, that's money you've already paid taxes on, your emergency fund and that type of thing. Savings is going to be there. It's highly liquid. Tax deferred, that's where that estimate of about 90% of retirement dollars is located in that middle bucket, where you got a tax deduction or salary reduction when it went in the case of a 401k. But you're just deferred, the very nature of the word means you're gonna pay taxes later. And then I should have changed the color of the third bucket to gold because it's like the ideal place to be. That's going to be a Roth IRA, Roth 401k, Roth conversion dollars. It could be what we call a LIRP or life insurance retirement plan, which we've talked about that on past shows. If you come in, or when you come in, because you're going to give us a call at the number at the bottom of the screen that's going to pop up here, what we're going to do is we're going to do the math for you. We'll do that tax map, but we'll also calculate the ideal balance for those first two buckets. And then our goal, our strategy is going to reposition every other dollar you have to that third bucket. Pay the taxes now. Now, it's not one size fits all, not specific advice because we get it, mileage may vary here. But in general, once we've had that mathematical ideal balance, we start repositioning in a manner that, again, will ideally get all the heavy lifting done before that time period comes where tax rates go up for good. But again, at a rate that you can still sleep well at night.
I love that. And that's the goal, right? It's helping clients sleep well at night.
You bet.
So, Tim, thank you so much. For you to get your complimentary tax map, again, this is going to be part of your complimentary written financial plan. If you're curious and wondering what your potential tax liability might be and how you can take proactive steps even now to mitigate that, this is why we invite you to pick up the phone and call 866-256-7778. Or again, you're also welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more on the Retirement Compass right after this.
Have you ever considered refinancing your retirement? When interest rates are low, you might be able to refinance your home, your car loan, or even credit card rates because it would help you keep more of your own money each month. Yet when interest rates go up, it may make sense to refinance your retirement. Higher interest rates could provide income opportunities that you may not be aware of. What works for your portfolio during low interest rates may not work for you when interest rates are high. Find out if a retirement refi could work better for you. Give us a call today and schedule a complimentary Refi Your Retirement review.
Welcome back to the Retirement Compass, where today we are discussing the gravity of taxes and what that means for you. And Tim, this has been such a great conversation, and I know that we're both very visual people and you love bringing a wealth of stories and analogies to the show, but you have another graphic you want to share with our viewers this week.
I do. So what I want to do is just help folks understand how the tax system in the United States actually works. Because I think if we go back to, high school chemistry class, it's going to help quite a bit. There it is. So think back to the graduated cylinder. And so what I'm illustrating here, and this is individual income tax. And what I mean by individual isn't single, but instead individuals versus corporations. So this is actually structured for marrying filing jointly because the majority of the folks we work with, that's how they file, but the same principles will exist if you're a single filer. So on the left-hand side, you've got the 2017 and prior rate system, and then on the right-hand side, it's the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which is currently in force based off the 2024 brackets we got from the Tax Foundation. And what I'm trying to illustrate is, as your income comes into the top of that graduated cylinder, it starts to fill up from the bottom up, right? And so at the bottom, you start where you pay 10% on some of your income. And then under the current system, it goes to 12%, and then 22, 24, 32, 35, and finally the top income tax bracket is 37%. And like I said earlier, Kristen, most of our clients are somewhere between 22 and 24%, which you can see is getting up close to $400,000 in taxable income. Under the old system, instead of 10, 12, 22, 24, and so forth, it's 10, 15, 25, 28, 33, 35, and then 39.6 at the top. But what else stands out for this chart for you, for this illustration?
Oh gosh, I mean, just you look at the colors, right? And you see how much of red is in the first one.
Exactly.
Versus the second one,
So the old saying is green is good, red is bad, and when it comes to taxes. And the reality is you will get to, not only do the rates change, but the brackets shift, and you get into a much higher tax bracket sooner under the old system. So again, it comes down to, how do I know how much to do, and when do I do it? And at the end of the day, you have to have someone who, I sometimes say, landed the plane. Sometimes I just give the analogy of, if you're planning for a trip and you're not sure, how to get there, what airport to go through, transportation, accommodations for where to stay, where to eat, restaurants, attractions. It doesn't hurt to hire a guide, someone who's done it before. I know my wife and I did that, and it took so much stress off our shoulders, because at the end of the day, instead of stewing and losing sleep over what we were going to do, this professional travel agent sat down with us, asked us some questions, and what we got was a binder that showed exactly where we were supposed to be, when we were supposed to be there, what we were going to do, and we ended up having a great time. And at the end of the day, she said, listen, if you can read and follow instructions, this is going to be, the trip of your dreams. And it was. What we want to do is emulate that, replicate that for all of our clients. If they give us a call today at the number at the bottom of the screen, we can be your travel agent, your travel guide, if you will, to and through retirement.
Yes, so that you can have the retirement of your dreams, right? That's what it's all about. Tim, thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here and sharing your wealth of knowledge with everyone. And thank you for joining us. Again, to get your complimentary tax map, again, this is part of that complimentary written financial plan. Simply call the number on the bottom of your screen, 866-256-7778. We know this might be new to you, but it's not new to Tim and the team of Stonebridge Wealth Systems. They are here to help and guide you along the way. So please reach out. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on the Retirement Compass.